Welcome. My name is Alan, and we are here today with more news and politics from around the world for Tuesday, January the 21st, 2025. Now, our opening story is from ProPublica. How Trump plans to seize the power of the purse from Congress. The second-term president likely will seek to cut off spending that lawmakers have already appropriated, setting off a constitutional struggle within the three branches. If successful, he could wield the power to punish perceived foes. Yeah. Per the Constitution itself, Congress has the power of the purse. They are the ones who control how funds are appropriated for laws. I mean, this is pretty expressly written in the Constitution. But again, Donald Trump being a moron. Yeah. And his followers being morons. Trump is entering his second term with vows to cut a vast array of government services and a radical plan to do so. Rather than relying on his party's control of Congress to trim the budget, Trump and his advisors intend to test an obscure legal theory holding that the presidents have sweeping power to withhold funding from programs they dislike. They do not. The founding fathers expressly were like, no, we do not want another king. It is why they have divided the United States government up into three branches that have checks and balances on each other. But, of course, dictators and monsters don't like checks and balances. They're like, no, we want full and utter control. So, of course, they're going to try to challenge it. We can simply choke off the money, Trump said in a 2023 campaign video. He's full of shit, but knowing the way he's basically, the system's been rigged in his favor, he might get it. For 200 years under our system of government, it was disputed that the president had constitutional power to stop unnecessary spending. It was undisputed. And yeah, that's a bullshit lie, of course, because it's Trump. He's a dumb-ass motherfucker. His plan, known as impoundment, threatens to provoke a major clash over the limits of the president's control over the budget. The Constitution gives Congress the sole authority to appropriate the federal budget. The president does not control it because we did not want another king. While the role of the executive branch is to dole out the money effectively. But Trump and his advisors, being the little cunts they are asserting that a president can unilaterally ignore Congress's spending decisions and impound funds if he opposes them or deems them wasteful. No, you can't. That's a bullshit claim from bullshit artists. Why do people believe dumbasses like Trump? He's a dumbass. But again, the way the Supreme Court's been rigged and the way Congress is just barely in control by the Republicans, I have a feeling it's going to go his way. These next 4 years are going to be god-awful. From the Lever, Trump's first orders, Parrot Project 2025 manifesto he disavowed. After distancing himself from the corporate policy agenda under his campaign, President Donald Trump is issuing executive orders torn straight from its pages. On his first day back in office, President Donald Trump signed a blizzard of executive orders on everything from the environment to immigration, and nearly 2/3 of them came straight from Project 2025, the sweeping corporate-backed policy blueprint that Trump lambasted during the 2024 presidential campaign. Because he lies! And people were still like, he's the greatest thing since sliced potatoes. Durr! You know, that's how Republicans talk if you haven't figured it out yet. Of the 26 formal executive orders Trump signed on Monday, 16 mirrored, at least in part, proposals from the Heritage Foundation's 900-page Project 2025 to reshape the federal government, according to an analysis by The Lever. Yep. He's so fucking full of shit. And people were like, oh, look, that man, he speaks to my racist dumb fuckery. Oh, jeez. From KenKlippenstein.com Substack. Yeah. Mr. Beast's TikTok bid is being overseen by the brother of Trump's Attorney General pick, lawyer Brad Bondi, brother of Attorney General nominee Pam Bondi, to oversee bid, investor says. He's putting the corporate-backed Project 2025 plans into effect. He's being backed by the richest people in the world, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos. And of course, there's corruption all throughout his cabinet. Why am I not surprised? Because he's a dumb shit. And people that like him are dumb shits. From the Ask Historians forum. The Ask Historians Reddit subreddit. Are there examples of oligarchic governments being removed peacefully? Are there examples of oligarchic governments being removed peacefully, or does it always end in violence? Of course, the first reply here, in recent history, it has not been uncommon for oligarchic governments to unwind themselves after recognizing that they have lost their popular mandate. Here are a few examples from between 20 to 40 years ago. And they give examples of 1986, the Philippines, when Ferdinand Marcos was removed from power. 87, Taiwanese army massacred 24 Vietnamese refugees. 87, the autocratic government of South Korea attempted to cover up the murder of 2 students. And of course, South Korea is now as a well-known democracy. But yeah, it originally did start out as an autocratic government when there was the split between North and South. In 1997, Indonesia, which had been a repressive one-party state run by Suharto and a network of oligarchic capitalists since 1965 rapidly entered the economic depression. But then he gets responses. Though it should be mentioned that Marcos' son had returned to the country after his father's death and is now president, in reference to 1986 Ferdinand Marcos, the Philippines. And after that, and he was freely, fairly elected, and as far as I know, hasn't gone down the autocratic path yet. As it stands, he doesn't really seem to be on that path. His policies seem to be more intent on robbing the country blind. See the 2025 proposed Philippine budget. But he doesn't have the same propensity for violence and force as his father or as the previous president. And then another person says the reality is that none of these oligarchic governments being overturned were peaceful. They all involved the populace coming out and overtly demonstrating their frustrations with the regime. The military was often split enough to not aggressively suppress the population, or if it did, it severely worsened the situation, prompting more civil violence. Additionally, these governments listed all still have a long way to go. Arguably, South Korea is still oligarchic with very powerful companies like Samsung amongst others. Indonesia has flip-flopped between democracy, autocracy, and seems to have largely returned to favoring Suharto's line. The Philippines just elected Bongbong Marcos, who is generally quite the character. Of the lot, Taiwan has probably done the best, but yeah, for the others listed here, it isn't looking quite so rosy yet. The reality was that most of the oligarchs that were overthrown weren't totally ousted and retained significant influence following their removal, whilst the policies that replaced them failed to make significant improvements. And there's a reply to him. I believe that the questioner was basically asking whether it's possible to depose an unelected oligarchic government without a civil war. My answer is in the affirmative, although it's true, as you say, that none of the cases led to a powerful oligarchy simply agreeing to completely leave local politics. The outcomes have depended on the particular institutions and civil society that surround the transition. And then we have another reply. I think you're blurring the lines between oligarchy and authoritarianism. These are distinct concepts that should not be confused. It is perfectly possible for oligarchy to exist in an electoral democracy, e.g. the U.S., and indeed, neo-Marxist scholarship tends to argue that the modern liberal democracy is designed to protect oligarchies. I recommend Winners 2011 as an excellent definitional and comparative work. But yeah, then it continues. But yeah, but give y'all a look at that because yeah, we are becoming the second biggest oligarchy behind Russia. And this is from the Ask Science subreddit. If temperature is just a measure of the movement speed of atoms, why are moving gusts of wind cold? Maybe the way I've learned temperature is oversimplified, but I've always been told that the difference in temperature between two objects is the speed at which their atoms are moving, vibrating. Yeah. If this is the case, how can our atmosphere be anything other than hot, since air is constantly moving And how can gusts of wind feel colder than the surrounding temperature? I apologize if this is a dumb question, which myself, I was taught in school, certain states of matter are based on how tightly or loosely squeezed together atoms are, and temperature and everything else, energy that radiates off of them is from the speed of the molecules, the vibration, and everything else. So, yeah. But we have responses here. The first one saying, you're actually not able to feel temperature. You can only feel how quickly heat is entering or leaving your body. Take a sip of ice water. It feels cold. Then eat some ice cream and take a sip of that water again. Now it feels warm. The temperature of the water didn't change, but the transfer of heat did. With the wind, it's the same thing. Convective heat transfer is a function of both velocity and temperature. So the temperature isn't changing, but the heat transfer is. Original poster says this actually makes a lot of sense. Thanks. Then we have a following response here. Quick science experiment. Get 3 bowls. 1, ice water. 2, lukewarm room temperature water. 3, the hottest water you can touch without burning yourself. Put one hand in the hot and one hand in the cold until you start to get used to those temps. Then put both hands in the room temperature water. The same water will feel warm to one hand and cold to the other. And then we have a following response. I don't know if you're going to see my other comment. The simple answer is that you're conflating 2 different concepts when you say the atmosphere is moving and it is cold. These other answers are informative, but have already missed the point of your question. The atmosphere is moving because it's warm at the atomic level. Specifically, it's roughly around 300 degrees Kelvin. Kelvin is a temperature scale of everything. We say, and you have probably heard it, absolute zero. This is 0.0 on the Kelvin scale, the temperature at which the atomic elements do not move. In other words, are frozen. However, the atmosphere is so much more vastly warm, we use a human scale temperature to describe our local sense of that, specifically Celsius or Fahrenheit. We don't use Kelvin for this because it's confusing. So instead, we say today the temperature is 70 degrees or 21 degrees, depending on whether you use Celsius or Fahrenheit. So yeah, Kelvin deals with so much. I think it's in Celsius. Absolute zero is like something crazy, negative. I'm wanting to say like 500 or something. I may be wrong. Don't quote me on that. You can look that up if you want. But yeah, it's something insanely cold like that. But yeah, at a more atomic level, things can still be warm. They can still be moving. But we have a follow-up reply. This is the best answer for why it feels cold. The molecules in your body are moving faster than the wind molecules. When they interact, energy gets transferred from high to low, body to wind. Energy leaving your body feels cold. And then with a following response, yeah, good answer. Go take an ice bath, jump into a hot tub. Do this a few times, and then you are invincible to cold weather for about 10 minutes. And we even have a follow-up. Also, when the wind blows, it actually warms things up. At least here in Alaska, when it's windy, the snow starts melting and evaporating. And then we have a full response from a Redditor who apparently deals with aerospace and quantum field theory and is a top commenter on a lot of these science issues. But yeah, he goes, not a dumb question. It comes from the fact that when people discuss temperature, they don't use precise language. To be fair, this is a problem with many branches of physics. So first and foremost, temperature being a function of a particle speed really only applies to ideal gases. Now the atmosphere isn't perfect ideal gas, but for this analysis it's actually close enough. But you should know for other phases of matter or highly compressed gas or very diffuse gas, there's a lot more to it. Second, the most complete description would be temperature is proportional to the speed of the molecules about the center of mass of the molecules. So, for instance, put air in a balloon. The center of the mass of that air is near the center of the balloon. Hitting the balloon across a room doesn't increase the temperature of the air inside. Or think about the atmosphere. Sure, wind is blowing, but we're also orbiting the sun at 30,000 miles a second. But obviously, the speed of the Earth's orbit doesn't come into play. So, bulk motion, like wind, isn't what determines temperature. It's the random motions of the molecules which are shooting off in all sorts of random directions that matter. Finally, the wind speeds are very slow compared to the speeds of air molecules in the atmosphere. Wind traveling at 70, might be meters a second instead of miles a second, is a Category 5 hurricane. But room temperature air molecules have an average velocity of 500 meters a second. So when the wind is blowing, still a lot of the air molecules aren't really headed towards you, because some are moving at 500 meters a second away from you, but it's just on average the air is moving towards you. Yeah. But I'll let you read the rest of this on your own time. I just wanted to kind of talk about that. Yeah. Which, yeah, this part of the second paragraph, random molecules and atomic parts do shoot off when you talk about the structures of molecules and atoms and matter in general. So yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, it's part of what helps affect and change things. But anyway, now we have, I think it's one more forum. Yeah. And this is, why don't humans have reproductive seasons like many animals do? And we get an answer from a Redditor who deals with animal behavior and marine biology. I'm going to repeat a previous answer I made to this question years ago. Let's talk first about why many animals do have mating seasons. The reason is usually quite simple. Offspring born at certain times of the year have a better chance at survival. For example, deer mate in the fall and give birth in the late spring, ensuring they have plenty of food and time to grow before the harsh winter season. Many tropical fish spawn when the rains come at the end of the dry season, providing their offspring with access to shelter and food in the newly flooded forest along the banks of their home rivers. In species where offspring survival isn't seasonal, breeding seasons don't tend to exist. This holds for many, but not all, tropical species, including all the great apes, and it holds for humans. So, to get to specifics, below are some reasons it doesn't necessarily make sense for humans to have breeding seasons. 1. Or A. None of our related species have them, so neither did our ancestors. 2. Or B. Humans are fundamentally tropical, having originated in tropical regions, and thus our native climate didn't have the harsh winters that a breeding season is often timed to avoid. 3. Or C. Humans live in groups that use technology, and this insulates us from the variability of our environment, meaning our infants are less vulnerable to external environmental conditions. And 4. Or D. Humans have very long infancies, meaning no matter when they are born, they are going to be experiencing a full years of climate variation as a baby. Yeah. Think about how long it takes for the development cycle from birth. The strength to hold certain parts of their body up. You know, you have to cradle usually their head if you're holding them and stuff, because they don't have that neck power. So then after they've gained that, they can walk, crawl. They're developing speech capability. They can walk. Yeah, think how long it takes going through all these cycles. And then think of how most animals, when they're born, how they kind of just grow quick. Humans have a very long infancy. But yeah, I'll go ahead and let you read the rest on your own time. Like I said, we've got a lot to get through here. Let's look at Data is Beautiful. The distribution of horses in the U.S. The first is horses per square mile. And you can see the darker blue is usually, yeah. You'll see a lot on the coast and along the Appalachian Mountains here. A lot in central Kentucky and Ohio, parts of Indiana, and then along the Great Plains here in eastern Texas, and along some other parts of the Ozarks here, and then further up into the Great Plains. And then, of course, you have them on the far coast. Some dark spots in California, Oregon, Washington. But yeah. Oh yeah, also Florida. I forget Florida because it's just, it don't feel like part of the U.S. for some reason. Now, horses per capita. And yeah, this is uh, how much they tend to have, which areas have the most. So even though we saw per square mile there's more here, there's more horses in general because it's just wider territory. This is where you're going to see a lot of your ranches in the U.S. in this portion of the country, because a lot of it is flat. There are mountains, but for the most part, flat land. And it's where you think of when you think of ranches and stuff. But yeah, you see parts up here around Nebraska, Colorado. No, that's Wyoming. Colorado is below it. Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota. Those seem to be the biggest areas. And then finally we have horses by county. And it shows you which counties in the U.S. tend to have the most horses. The county in the U.S. with the most horses, Marion County in Florida, which says is around 23.9 thousand. Next is LaGrange County in Indiana, this state right here. I would assume LaGrange is up here. Next is Apache County in Arizona. This is Arizona over here, so that's probably Apache County. Next is Lafayette County in Kentucky, which is this state right here. Next is Parker County in Texas. Texas down here. Next is Lancaster County in Pennsylvania, which is this state up here. And so Lancaster County is like down in this lower southeastern portion of the state. Next is Bourbon County in Kentucky. So Kentucky's second appearance. And again, it's pretty close to Lafayette County. Which Kentucky, the Churchill Downs is held Churchill Downs is held every year in Kentucky. It's one of the big three horse racing events in the U.S. So I'm not surprised Kentucky's on there twice. Next is Navajo County in Arizona, making its second appearance. So it's one of these bigger counties, this one, or maybe this one. Next is Denton County in Texas, making its second appearance. But, of course, look how big Texas is. And, of course, in 10th is Grayson County, Texas. The only state with 3 appearances in the top 10. But again, look how much bigger it is than other states that had a lot of horses. But yeah, I just thought that was an interesting statistical look. Now, we're going to look at a map here, state population growth versus the national average. And it's sourced from census.gov, straight from the government website. State population growth rate versus national average for 2023-2024. From July the 1st, 2023 to July the 1st, 2024, the U.S. population grew by 0.9812% or 3.3 million people. This map compares which states grew faster or slower than average. Only one state grew at the average rate, Massachusetts. The fastest growing state, Florida, which I don't know why. Hurricanes, alligators, anacondas, not really a place I'd want to live. And Republicans, don't forget that. The next highest growth states are South Carolina, North Carolina. Florida is also tied with Washington, D.C. I kind of forget because it's not a state, but yeah. So the nation's capital and Florida are the two fastest growing. Next is the next highest growing states in the nation. South Carolina, North Carolina, Delaware, Texas, Nevada, Utah, Idaho. So yeah, a lot of growth in the South. And then finally, still growing somewhat, we have the states of New Jersey, Georgia, Tennessee, Arizona, and Washington. So those are the states that have been growing in the U.S. Now we get to states that are shrinking just a bit, or just below average, and that are only growing just below average, I should say. So those are states: Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, Maryland, Virginia, Kentucky, Alabama, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Colorado, California, and Alaska. States that are growing a little bit slower are Oregon, Wyoming, New Mexico, Louisiana, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, and Maine. And finally, the states that have been growing the slowest with potential loss: West Virginia, Mississippi. I forgot, Hawaii's growing slow. Not the very slowest, but it's growing pretty slow. But yeah, Mississippi, Vermont. Oh, I forgot Vermont up there. But anyway, as it says down here, Mississippi, Vermont, and West Virginia were the only states to lose population, although these losses were small. So yeah, those are the differences in how states were growing, or in the cases of those three states, shrinking. Now, we have another chart here, the 10 richest billionaires per year. And this starts from 1987. As you can see, very small, they're not hugely rich. And this is along the side here, billions as per US dollar. And look, very few. I don't even know if we have 10 here. But yeah, most of them from Japan or other. And in 1988, it pretty much stays that way, but we get one American. 1989, again, pretty much stays that way. Few Japan, few other, one American. 1990, Japan, others, American, and I think that's, is that a white? There is no white. I don't know what that is, but yeah. 1991, other, Japan, and the US. And it stays that way, but we start seeing other disappear. Japan slowly fading away too. By 1993, there's like 2 Japan and a couple US. 1994, 1 in Japan, couple US, and there's a red. So Spain, it looks like. 1995, it's back to 1 Japan, couple Americans, 1 Japan, 3 Americans, and the rest are from like other. And by 1997, it's just Americans and then a few from other. 1998, Americans and a few from other. 1999, Americans, and look how rich this one is compared to everybody else. That's gotta be what, Gates? Because I know Bill Gates was the first big billionaire in the US. Because I remember it being news. He was one of the earliest billionaires. I don't know necessarily if he was the first, but he was before Musk and Bezos and Zuckerberg. 2000, someone from Japan came back, but the rest were American and from other. But again, in 2001, Americans and just from other. 2002 is pretty much all Americans except one who was from other. 2003, Americans other. 2004, Americans other. 2005, we see some change. Americans, then the green, which is India, and the purple, which is Mexico, and from other. 2006, Americans, we had orange, which is France, and still India, Mexico, and from others. 2007, we add a red, which is Spain again. So there's someone from Spain that enters again. 2008, turns out to be a lot from India. So U.S., India, Mexico, other. The next year, U.S., India, Spain, Mexico, other. U.S., 2010, U.S., France, India, Spain, Mexico, others. 2011, U.S., France, India, Spain, Mexico, others. 2012, we go back to just U.S., France, Spain, Mexico. So there is no Indian billionaires. They fought out of the picture for a bit. And from others. 2013, U.S., France, Spain, Mexico, other. 2014, U.S., Spain, Mexico. No others from other. 2015, U.S., France, Spain, Mexico. 2016, U.S., Spain, Mexico. So France falls out there for a little bit. The next year, 2017, U.S., Spain, Mexico. The year after that, U.S., France comes back. Spain, Mexico, and we continue that the next year in 2019. 2020, U.S., France, Spain. So Mexico's kind of falling out there for a bit. Then we start seeing the insane growth. Look how much taller these are. 2021, U.S., France, India comes back. We have the same kind of thing for the next year, 2022, U.S., France, India. The next year, U.S., France, India, Mexico. And then 2024, U.S., France, India. So Mexico, once again, is falling out. But, yeah, notice how little they were as far as billionaires back here in the late 80s and throughout the 90s compared to the rest of the time, and then especially when we get here, 2021 to 2024. There are some insane billionaire numbers. We're talking hundreds of billions. Before that was a rarity. And then even down here before 2000s, yeah, you're looking, if you've got tens of billions, you're doing very good. Especially back here. But, yeah, now there's a chance we'll see trillionaires in a number of years or decades. So, yeah. Now, let's look at another chart. This one, what did it say it is? Nationalities of the 10 richest people in the world according to Forbes, 87 to 2024. So this is another one of the wealth charts like this. And again, it tells the same story. Yeah. The nationalities of the 10 richest people in the world according to Forbes. It tells a very similar story. There is slight changes. But yeah. Again, you look over here. The ridiculous wealth. Yeah. But it's just another billionaire countries, nationalities type of list you can look at. So now let's look at some pictures from history. This one is a picture, and the text states, piles of bows that litter the snow-covered railroad tracks leading to the main gate of the Auschwitz II Birkenau concentration and extermination camps after it was liberated by the 322nd Rifle Division of the Soviet Army on January the 27th, 1945. And yeah, you can see all the bows here, which you can imagine meals were very deliberately apportioned. And of course, it's nothing of a fair apportionment. But yeah. Now, this picture, Lockheed P-38F Lightning Dear John of the 27th Air Force Squadron 1st Fighter Wing, 12th Air Force, circa 1944. The fuselage, the main body of the plane, bears markings of 49 bomber escort missions, which are your aircraft right on this side, 43 attack missions, which are, this is the escort missions, this big thing right here. These bombs are attack missions. 4 German aircraft, which are shot down, shown by the swastikas, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 1 enemy ship sunk. So yeah. So again, escorts, missions, bomb missions, attack missions, number of German aircraft shot down, and then the 1 ship they sunk. This is a photograph taken in Munich in November of 1935 in remembrance of the beer hall putsch, showing brown-shirted Nazi leaders, including Adolf Hitler and Hermann Goering. Which, of course, this, I believe, this man right here is Hitler. You can see his funny little mustache and how his hair is parted there. I'm not sure about Goering, but I believe it's this man right next to him. That's Hermann Goering, because he was supposed to be a little overweight. He was one of Hitler's closest allies. So yeah. But this picture right here, Saddam Hussein posing for a photo with Western hostages in Kuwait in 1990. So back here, Saddam, look how smiling he is. And you look at all the adults around him, most of them are kind of solemn and stone face. I think this one back here's got a slight smile. But the kids, some of them are smiling. The little girl here. But yeah. This picture, German children playing with worthless money during the height of hyperinflation in 1923. Remember, Germany was severely punished by a number of the Allied forces for being the main cause of the war. And so they suffered the brunt of the punishments. And then I believe there was also economic hardships, which led to hyperinflation. So 1923, this is after World War I, where they're experiencing the punishments. But yeah, you could see how this would lead to people like Hitler being chosen to be chancellor. And I kept telling people, of course, economics is how Hitler became leader of Germany, and it's how we got Trump. Some people were like, the economics was too tough. But now we're going to have to deal with the possibility of a horrible leader. And finally, we have a picture here, Miss America contestants of 1922. 102 years ago. These are what Miss America contestants looked like. I just thought it was interesting. So yeah. Now, let's get into some news stories. It's taken a while to go through all that, but yeah. First, from Local 3 News. I don't know exactly where, but it seems to be Tennessee somewhere. Tennessee Valley Authority, or the Tennessee Valley, braces for the coldest night yet this winter. But yeah, go home. White House removes Spanish language from their website. Yeah, he shows the hate and disdain for the other automatically. And here, this is from the BBC. Instagram hides search results for Democrats. It's not just Instagram, it was Facebook, both companies under the umbrella of Meta. Now, Zuckerberg said, it's just a glitch. We have fixed it, which now it is fixed if you watch Philip DeFranco, but apparently some of the searches that are coming up are still, yeah, not great. But yeah. Next, we have from CBS News. Trump announces up to $500 billion in private sector AI infrastructure investment, which is money going to the already rich, because if you're working on AI, you have to have money to get it started in the first place. So yeah, rich helping out the rich. Also from CBS News, judge blocks the release of Jack Smith's report on Trump documents case to lawmakers. I think it was Eileen Cannon who was the judge who made the block. Federal judge in South Florida blocked the Justice Department from giving lawmakers the portion of former special counsel Jack Smith's report that deals with his investigation into President Trump's handling of classified documents. In a scathing rebuke of the Justice Department's proposal, U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon, of course, one of the biggest Trump sycophant appointees, said in a 14-page order she is granting a request from Mr. Trump's co-defendants to keep the report from the heads of the House and Senate Judiciary Committees. Why, is there some devastating information in there? Walt Nauta, an aide to Mr. Trump, and Carlos de Oliveira, the former property manager at Mar-a-Lago, asked Cannon to block its release earlier this month. And of course, it's just more sycophantic butt kisser behavior. From the AP, a sample from a remote Tanzanian region tests positive for Marburg disease, confirming World Health Organization fears. The same World Health Organization, Trump just decided, yeah, let's remove us from it. Trump's such a moron. He really is. And there's morons who vote for him like, I like him, he makes sense to me. From NPR, ex-Georgia prosecutor on trial for hindering Ahmaud Arbery's murder investigation. Oh, so there was racist behavior? Surprise, surprise. From WXYZ Detroit, ABC 7, controversial Melvin Dell lieutenant fends off claim of excessive force involving a taser. So this is in the Detroit area, in Michigan. Lieutenant Matthew Furman denies any wrongdoing, he calls himself proactive police officer. I'm sure you are, knowing the way most police are just protective. From Salon.com, it was a Nazi salute. Historian dismisses claim that Musk's raised arm was mere awkward gesture. Historian of fascism here, it was a Nazi salute, and a very belligerent one too, wrote New York University's Ruth Ben-Ghiat. So yeah, a lot of people, including experts, are not buying that it was just, it was an oopsie. No, it wasn't. I already told y'all yesterday, I think it was clear he was throwing a Nazi salute. From LGBTQ Nation, Donald Trump starts his presidency by declaring war on the LGBTQ plus community and democracy. Trump's first day as president was an assault on trans rights and a reminder of the threat he presents to democracy. Okay. From The Advocate, journalist calls out people for being fine with Elon Musk's Nazi salute, but not with pronouns. Yeah, all these people got angry over, says, please use the pronouns I would prefer to use, because some of them didn't feel they were of that gendered situation. So they were like, look, I, me, they, them, because I don't really define myself by a gender. And, you know, most of the pussy Republicans are like, no, you're what you were born as, and I can say whatever. But then they have no problem. They've got no problem with that. Yeah. From the BrennanCenter.org, I may have posted this one yesterday, but I can't remember. Presidents can't end birthright citizenship. Yeah, his executive order is almost certain to be struck down. Again, the 14th Amendment, people, read your Constitution. But, again, knowing the way everything's rigged for jackass Donnie, he still might get away with it. And that's what's annoying as fuck. Idiots giving a moron power. From Bloomberg Law, federal worker union sues Trump over ending job protections. Union representative, the union represents workers from the IRS and 35 other agencies, and has a lawsuit that says Trump doesn't have power to end job safeguards. Yeah, you don't want a president that can come in and change things just willy-nilly. That does not a good country make. But they're trying to do that. No! You have to have services that still run just even though your leaders are dumbasses like Trump. From the Christian Post. Bishop rebukes Trump at service, asks him to have mercy on LGBT people, illegal immigrants. The Right Reverend Marianne Edgar Budd says for some who pray, it's not just the loss of an election, but a loss of equality. Yeah, Trump is actually a severe threat. And a lot of people don't want to acknowledge this, but he is. Just because you're a dumbass and only listen to right-wing stupidity doesn't mean he's not a threat. From Law and Crime, English motherfucker. I live in America. Man attacks bartender, tells him Trump is going to deport your ass after being asked to pay his tab. I have no doubt. We know how they acted the first time Trump got elected. We know they'll do the same shit. And I have no doubt a racist cocksucker like that tried to do this. There's no doubt in my mind. Michael Nixon, Miami-Dade County Corrections and Rehabilitation, was at the Norman's Tavern in Miami Beach, Florida, where he allegedly carried out his racist tirade. Oh, and he's not even from Miami Beach. He's a drunk tourist visiting Miami Beach. This was last weekend after he unleashed a racist tirade on the bartender, spewing Hispanophobic remarks at the worker and telling him, "Trump will deport your ass," after being asked to pay his tab. And he replies, "I won't pay shit." Yeah, Michael Nixon, 42 of Virginia, allegedly told the bartender, according to the incident report, which was obtained by ABC affiliate WPLG. "English, motherfucker, I live in America. You speak English." The Arlington resident reportedly traveled from Virginia to Miami Beach sometime before Sunday night when police say the racist attack occurred. He was allegedly at Norman's Tavern and racked up a $130.81 tab while there, which the bartender was trying to get him to pay. So again, drunken racist dick shit. And more of these racist cocksuckers are only going to show their face now that Trump's in power. From Local 10 News. Where are you from? Local 10 News. Weather. Anyway, 22 states sue to stop Trump's order blocking birthright citizenship. Which again, it's in the fucking Constitution, dumb fuck Donnie. But, again, He's got so much backing and support from people in power that he might actually succeed in something he's never supposed to succeed at. Because the Constitution says you can't do that. You have to go through the Congress and the people to get a freaking amendment done. But he's trying to make other claims on how to get it taken care of, and it's like, no, you're an idiot. From The Guardian, 22 Democratic states. It's the same thing. I just gave you another site to reconfirm it, show it. Now we have another story from ProPublica. Donald Trump controls a publicly traded company. Now he will pick its regulator. There have been internal concerns that Trump media could be misleading investors. But with its largest shareholder about to be president, experts doubt the SEC is up to the job of investigating Truth Social's parent company. See, this is what happens when you give a criminal, con man, liar control and power. They don't get punished because you're dumb enough to vote for them. From The Guardian, Jon Stewart on Trump's inauguration. A cycle of no accountability. Late night hosts discuss Trump's tech billionaire-filled, rambling indoor inauguration ceremony for his second term. Yeah, I watched it. It was pretty good. Stewart, as always, skewers Trump pretty well because he always skewers anybody that needs held to power. From The Hill, Constitution page on the White House's website shows a 404 error. Because he doesn't believe in the fucking Constitution. Why would he need it? The Constitution page on Trump's White House website is showing a 404 error. Page not found. Under former President Biden's term, the website highlighted the history behind the creation of the Constitution and why the country has the set of guiding rules. Trump unveiled the new website Monday after taking office for the second time. The site showcases Trump and Vice President Vance's plans, including making America safe again, making the country affordable and energy dominant again, draining the swamp and bringing back American values. Guess what, motherfucker? My American values is punching a Nazi in the goddamn face. Trump signed a flurry of executive orders Monday, which included orders officially recognizing only two sexes, male and female, immigration-related orders, and ending diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in the federal government. Besides removing the Biden-era Constitution page, Trump withdrew dozens of other actions taken by Biden. In his first executive order, Trump revoked the ability of transgender people to serve in the U.S. military. Biden's order changed the 2018 ban that Trump implemented during his first term. The Hill has reached out to the Trump White House for comment about the Constitution webpage. That's all they got on it. So it's like, okay. So, dumbass, be dumbass. From Reuters, Israel launches significant military operation on the West Bank and at least 9 Palestinians killed. This was an operation a day after Trump lifts sanctions on settlers. And it's off after the peace negotiations. Hamas calls on Palestinians to escalate fighting in the West Bank because it's clear that Israel is a genocidal fucking country. Bands of settlers attack Palestinian villagers and villages. From The Guardian, a third of the Arctic's vast carbon sink is now a source of emissions, a study reveals. Critical CO2 levels, carbon dioxide stores held in the permafrost are being released as the landscape changes with global warming. Hey, we're killing ourselves and the planet, but at least we have energy. Fucking stupid ass motherfuckers. From the AP, if I can get it to pull up here, rights group accuses Congo's army and a rebel group of possible war crimes. So yeah, there's some serious things going on in the Congo in Africa. So yeah. Also from the AP, Mexico defends sovereignty as the U.S. seeks to label cartels as terrorists, which we know, if you've been following things, is an attempt to set it up so that Trump can invade Mexico and put us in another fucking war! Yeah. From the Times of India, he's destroying Russia. Trump tells Putin to end the Ukraine war and make a deal. Oh, God. U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday called for the Russian President Vladimir Putin to strike a deal to end the nearly 3-year war in Ukraine, specifying that Russia will be in big trouble if the conflict continues. He should make a deal. I think he's destroying Russia by not making a deal, Trump said upon his return to the Oval Office. I think Russia's going to be in big trouble. Trump expressed his willingness to meet with Putin, mentioning their prior summit during his first term. I get along with him great. I would hope he wants to make a deal. We saw your plans before where you said, Russia gets to take the territory they've already took. They get to leave fine. No, motherfucker. They are the aggressor. But you're going to give them their territory anyway because you're a little bitch. From The Guardian. Catastrophic Great Barrier Reef hit by its most widespread coral bleaching, a study finds. More than 40% of individual corals monitored around one 3-island reef bleached by heat stress and damaged by flesh-eating disease. And of course, the Great Barrier Reef is in around Australia. It's in the waters around it. So yeah, One Tree Island, not One Tree Island. One Tree Island Reef. Yeah. Anyway, from the AP, hundreds of Swedish forces arrive in Latvia in the largest deployment with NATO to date. So yeah, hundreds of Swedish troops arrived in Latvia on Saturday to join a Canadian-led multinational brigade along NATO's eastern flank, a mission Sweden is calling the most significant operation so far as a member of the Western Defense Alliance. But yeah, truly, Russia, y'all need to give in. You've got too much against you. You need to stand back. Because honestly, you're going to finish yourself off. For your own good, you got to stand back and rebuild, dude. From Haaretz, Israeli court shortens convicted rapist sentence over Gaza war military service. The judges said in their ruling on the doctor convicted of raping a student that there were exceptional and extraordinary circumstances, citing his contribution to the security of the state. You're a horrible rapist who raped people that were in your care, but you hate Gazans, so you're important. Whoa. Shorten your rape conviction. This is the genocidal mindset of the Israeli government. From Middle East Eye, Israel drops case against 5 men accused of murdering Palestinian captive. State Attorney Amit Isman decided to call off the case against the 5 due to the high chance of false confessions and mere bragging. Somehow I don't think it was mere bragging. Although it could have been, they're all so fucking genocidal. Israel's state attorney on Monday dismissed an investigation against 5 men suspected of killing a bound Palestinian they held captive in the aftermath of the Hamas-led October 7th attacks, despite video evidence and admissions of guilt from the suspects. Amit Isman dropped the investigation, citing low credibility of the confessions, which are likely just bravado. Bullshit. From Vox, is Donald Trump's agenda actually popular? Here's what the data says. Do they show the numbers, or am I going to have to read this thing? Blah, blah, blah. It's not too bad. Okay, we'll read some of it. Standing in the Capitol Rotunda on Monday, President Donald Trump captured the vibes buoying Republicans and the American right writ large, as he promised a lengthy list of crackdowns and policy reversals. My recent election is a mandate. No, it wasn't. To completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal. No, people didn't like you. There's a lot of people who hate you still. As our victory showed, the entire nation is rapidly unifying behind our agenda. No, they are fucking not, you fucking egotistical jackass. With dramatic increases in support from virtually every element of our society. As he takes office, it can feel like Trump's movement was a cultural and political has the cultural and political upper hand. Republicans won the popular vote in both the presidential and congressional races. Trump's popularity has never been higher, though it's still below 50%. Broligarchs, celebrities, and big business are lining up behind him. But another way of looking at this is that Trump's popularity is probably at its peak. The modern presidents tend to start off off their terms with high support before the public gets disillusioned. He did, after all, barely win the election. Thank you for admitting it. Republicans only control Congress by tiny majorities, and most of the high-profile policy proposals aren't as popular as he claims. Most of the American public isn't outright rejecting everything Trump is offering, at least not yet. On at least 3 different issues, Trump's position is significantly popular. But there's a difference between what the public supports and the mandate Trump claims. Where Americans back Trump. Earlier this month, the AP's Newark Center for Public Affairs Research and Marist College and the public opinion and market research firm Ipsos, in partnership with the New York Times, conducted polling to gauge Americans' feelings about a range of Trump's proposed actions and positions. So 3 different groups. So yeah. The results are clear. If not that helpful in giving Trump a mandate. Americans are pretty much split evenly on most issues, but they lack Trump's side in at least 3 areas. Pursuing an isolationist foreign policy, being less accommodating of transgender people, and pursuing a restrictionist immigration policy. Isolation foreign policy, he's already stated he wants to make cartels terrorists and put a tariff on Mexico. You think he doesn't want a fucking war? Are you that goddamn stupid? Less accommodating to transgender people. Sounds like the racism against people of color that had to be fought through in the civil rights era, and pursuing a restrictionist immigration policy. Look, immigration made this nation. Yes, there should be laws in place on how it's done, but this is a country of immigrants, whether you like to fucking admit it or not. For example, 6 in 10 Americans think we should pay less attention to problems overseas and concentrate on problems here at home, according to the Ipsos poll. And majorities think the federal government is spending too much money on aid to both Israel, 53%, I agree with that, and Ukraine, 51%. Again, Putin is the aggressor on that one. The views on both countries are reversals from earlier in 2024, when Ipsos polling found slight majorities supported continued military aid to both. On gender identity and trans rights, majorities also side with Trump. The highly politicized issue of transgender female athletes competing in women's sports, which actually isn't really a real fucking issue because the number is so fucking goddamn tiny, but dumb fucks are like, what about me? Yeah, motherfuckers. For example, isn't necessarily a top-of-the-mind concern for many Americans, but about 80% in the Ipsos poll think this should not be allowed. And about 7 in 10 Americans say that doctors should not be allowed to prescribe puberty-blocking drugs or hormone therapy to anyone under the age of 18, including nearly all Republican respondents and most Democrats. These are the same goddamn motherfuckers that wanted abortion banned! Why are you listening to these stupid cocksuckers? Opinions on immigration policy are a different beast. Public polls over the last 2 years capture a much more muddled picture on Trump's plans for immigration and border enforcement. They show an overall sense of antipathy for the status quo. Americans are angry at the influx of legal and illegal immigrants over the course of the Biden presidency, afraid about the state of security at the southern border, which is a lot of bullshit pushed by right-wing propaganda, and willing to turn away from a welcoming approach to migration. But when asked more specific questions, Americans become more critical. The Associated Press North poll and the Ipsos poll both show an overwhelming majority of respondents support some kind of legal immigration, meaning the public believes there's some value in welcoming outsiders. About 30% of respondents, primarily Republicans, think the U.S. legal immigration should be reduced a lot or a little, while 24% of the government should increase legal immigration. 24% think the government should increase legal immigration. So it's about equal on that. That breakdown mirrors some of the tensions inside the Trump alliance, as some of the pro-business wing, like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, argued with anti-immigration Trump acolytes in late December. When it comes to illegal immigration, opinions are also nuanced. Some 55% of Americans in the Ipsos poll, including a third of Democrats, support deporting all immigrants who are here illegally. A plurality, 43%, in the AP North poll say the same thing. That support increases significantly when specifically suggesting the deportation of those who have criminal records or those who cross the southern border during the post-pandemic surge. 87% support the former, while 63% support the latter in the Ipsos poll. Yeah, if they're illegal and they have committed crimes, they have got to go. That's fine. We don't need criminals. You coming over here just to commit criminal activity. But people coming here seeking refuge, seeking help, seeking a better life, I've got no problem with that. And yet, that support changes when you ask about exceptions. 63% of Americans strongly or somewhat support protecting DACA recipients whose those immigrants who were children when they entered the U.S. illegally. This complexity doesn't come across the way Trump and his supporters talk about mass deportations and raids. They speak and will likely act as if there's an overwhelming support for removing every undocumented immigrant. But that's been pretty constant over the last few years. But what's been pretty constant over the last few years is that Americans have warmed up to the idea of mass deportation in theory. To see them actually play out, however, will likely change that opinion. What the American public doesn't seem to want. And then there's the stuff the American public isn't really excited about. Tariffs, prosecuting political opponents, pardoning January 6, 2021 rioters, and trying to get rid of birthright citizenship. The Ipsos poll captures something relevant to the executive order Trump is signing that seeks to overturn the 14th Amendment's guarantee of birthright citizenship, that anyone born on the U.S. soil is American to the children of undocumented immigrants. I keep telling people it's the fucking 14th Amendment. It's in the Constitution, dumb fucks. A solid 55% of the country rejects Trump's call to do so. There's also a mandate against Trump's plan for political retribution. Nearly 3/4 of Americans reject the idea that Trump should use the government to investigate his political opponents, while a separate AP North poll shows that just 2 in 10 Americans support his proposed pardoning of people who participated in the January 6th Capitol attack. 6 in 10 oppose those pardons. So yeah, around 60% are like, no, they are criminals. They should not be pardoned. And finally, Americans are not excited for either broad or targeted tariffs that Trump has said he wants to enact, because Trump is a fucktard. The AP North polling shows almost half of the U.S. adults somewhat or strongly oppose new tariffs on all foreign goods. A slight majority also opposes more scaled-back tariffs that specifically target China and Mexico, per the Ipsos survey. Yeah. Any motherfucker who thinks these tariffs are going to be a good idea is a goddamn dumb fuck. And that includes Donnie Dumbfuck. Now, let's get to some videos. This, Trump is asked to have mercy upon the countless American people that fear for their very lives after his unprecedented victory, in which he promised vengeance and retribution against his perceived enemies. Wasn't unprecedented. Wasn't a landslide. It was one of the smaller victories in American history. But let's turn on the volume, roll it back to the beginning, and play.
Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens
Look at him.
or have the
He's not
power to-
interested in listening to it.
But the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution from their own lands to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land. May God grant us the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, to speak the truth to one another in love, and walk humbly with each other and our God for the good of all people in this nation and the world.
He's not interested in doing any of that. You can tell from his actions. He's like, no, I'm going to pour down wrath upon anybody who I don't like or opposes me. He's a garbage human being. And I'm saying that because I think that's the nice part, calling him a human being. Passerby shouts at January 6 supporters waiting on the detainees to be released after President Trump's pardon. Yeah, January 6th was a riot, an attack on our nation. They should be in jail still. But no, con man, dumb fuck Donnie decides to pardon them.
And then what about that hammer? I lost knocked the shit out of you. I said kill, damn it. Shut your stupid ass up.
Hey, what you need to do is do your research before you come out here running your fat mouth.
Back to wherever you came
Quit running
from.
your fat mouth
Do
when you
that.
ain't got no
Fuck you.
facts.
Yeah,
I
get
can
'em,
see
girl.
the facts. You tore up the Capitol. They incited an insurrection. See, you
That's
racist
cool on you,
motherfucker.
Uncle Lupa.
Fuck you.
I ain't racist at all.
Well, don't call me no Oompa Loompa,
Is
whatever
that
the fuck you
racist?
said.
Is that racist? Is that racist to call you an Oompa Loompa?
Yeah, bitch, it is.
Uh,
Everybody to the curb.
Bad language never advances your argument, man. Bad language never advances your argument.
yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Republican's just another word for stupid, selfish, idiotic asshole. I use it as a pejorative anymore. Now, this video, they used to support Hitler. Errol Musk talks about Elon's maternal grandparents, who were members of the Nazi Party in Canada and later moved to South Africa because they supported the apartheid regime in South Africa. So, yeah, it's no surprise he gave a Nazi salute. He comes from Nazi family members.
Her parents came to South Africa from Canada because they sympathized with the Afrikaner government. They used to support Hitler and all that sort of stuff. But they didn't know, obviously, I don't think they knew what the Germans, the Nazis were doing. But they in Canada, they were in the German party in Canada, and they sympathized with the Germans.
Yeah.
So when the Afrikaners government came into power here in 1948, then May's father, who was quite an interesting guy, he was a very good pilot, he said he wants to be with the Afrikaners because he agrees with apartheid, you see. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And he came out here with his family.
Didn't that cause tension with you? Because you don't...
Yeah, that caused a lot of tension with me. And because I was a director of NUSAS, which was a National Union of South African Students, which was a very anti-apartheid body, you know. And I argued with them a lot. And they used to tell me, they used to be like rude to me, you know. And the parents. And then...
So yeah, the roots of Nazism run deep in Musk's lineage. Let's see. The genocide persists. War on the West Bank. Israeli terrorist forces have killed 7 Palestinians so far and injured approximately 35 others during ongoing raid on Jenin City. The following video clip exposed the Israeli terrorist forces openly shooting at civilians walking down the streets of Jenin. Yeah. And we're just walking down the streets and all of a sudden shots ring out. I think Benjamin Netanyahu, Gallant, Ben Gvir, and high-ranking members of the IDF should all be held as war criminals in The Hague. That's how I view it. Trump's border czar plans to unleash ICE, storming schools to snatch children from classrooms. Yeah, I'm not surprised one damn bit. Sounds like something they'd fucking do.
If and when ICE went into a school to arrest someone, that would be highly contentious, wouldn't it?
Well, absolutely. But then again, you know, what's our national security worth? I mean, if we have national security vulnerability, if we know it's a national security risk and we got to walk on a powder stamp to get them, that's something we have to do.
Announcing the formation of Stargate. U.S. will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure. I talked about this in another article earlier, but yeah, this is helping the rich get richer. Is all it fucking does. AI has not helped us do anything progressive at all to help the nation.
World-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it. in the future, a new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States.
See, there's more important things to invest the money in, but no. Let's make the rich richer. I told y'all. But no one wanted to listen to me. No. But I told y'all from the beginning. He is interested in no one but himself and his rich friends. When are people going to sit there and realize, hey, he's a lying, scheming con man? What is it going to take? Huh? What is it going to take before you're like, I don't think Trump cares about us? Because guess what? He doesn't. But yeah, I think we'll go ahead and end this episode there. If I can get the mouse to work properly. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting as many links as I can in the description box below the video. Sometimes I don't have room to post them all because I have so many open. I go over so much. But anyway, thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.